in 2 months. That is how much BP says it has spent so far on the oil spill cleanup. And there's no end in sight right now. Can BP afford to keep paying for the cleanup and damages to victims? Or should the government step in and tap taxpayer money? Well, joining us for this week's Cassoni's Corner, Erica Payne, founder of the Agenda Project, and Mark Mattson, founder and CEO of Mattson Money. Hey, thanks to both of you for coming on the show.
Great to be with you.
All right, Mark, I'm going to kick this off with you. If BP does indeed go out of business, the taxpayer is going to still have to pay for it. Why not just divert some stimulus money and use that for the cleanup of the spill?
I don't think we're so much in a global economic crisis as a moral crisis. Part of a moral crisis, getting through it, is having people who are responsible for bad companies, bad businesses, bad loans, and yes, bad oil wells, be accountable. We can't keep spreading the accountability for disaster. BP caused the disaster. They need to be accountable for it. Not one dime of taxpayer money should ultimately go to clean it up. However, I would say that right now it needs to be all hands on deck to actually cleaning it up. If the federal government spends some money now, they got to get it back later.
Okay, then, Erica, here's the thing. All right, $787 billion in stimulus money. At this point, $377 billion is unspent. It's still available. Why not take it, instead of spending it on entitlement programs, why not take some of that funding and use it to clean up the spill?
Well, the stimulus program that was put in place in order to make sure that teachers stayed in their jobs, to make sure that the police officers stayed in their jobs, and that number was come up with before the oil spill. And that was what economists in the White House thought was necessary, and many people actually thought it should be a lot more than it was, but that was how much they thought we needed to avoid a Great Depression. And so we have, made some progress towards a recovery. We're certainly slightly better off than we were a year and a half ago, but now we have this other big problem to deal with. So diverting money actually is not going to be that helpful. We're going to need to do more money into the Gulf region to help that economy recover.
Mark, I mean, come on now, $224 billion in entitlement spending that's still sitting there out of the $787 billion. Why not divert it at least for a year or two, then go back to BP, if there's a BP left?
Hey, here I got to diverge from Erica. That money was not allocated to save union jobs. That money was developed to get the economy going back on and getting people back to work. Small businesses have to achieve those jobs. Any small business person knows, and I'm one of them, that you cannot sustain this an economy based on unsustainable government spending. I tell you who needs to get that money back. The taxpayer needs to get that money back. And this is also a cautionary tale for investors. A lot of people are gambling on BP. Don't speculate.
Erica?
So Mark needs to go back and take some Econ 101 classes. The way that you stimulate an economy is to put government stimulus money in. It's the spender and lender of last resort. It is what it is. After World War II, the reason that the world economy recovered is because the United States started spending a lot of money. It is an unfortunate but true fact. It's sort of like when your car stalls and your battery dies, you've got to get in there with the jumper cables, and the government is the group that has the jumper cables. It's, I would prefer also that we not have to spend this money, but we wrecked the economy and we've got it. And now the BP has wrecked the Gulf Coast, and hopefully we're going to hold them responsible for fixing it. But there's one way to get out of a recession, and that is to jumpstart the car.
But the car that could be going off the cliff, Mark, is BP and the Gulf Coast economy. They only had about $7 billion on cash on hand at this point leading up to the spill.
BP is not going to go off the coast. Let's be clear. BP has been asked to put $20 billion in a fund to pay for damage that they caused with their incredibly reckless action. $10 billion is sitting there about to be paid out in dividends. So let's see, we've already got half the fund done. They made $14 billion last year. So the company is going to be just fine. Who's not going to be fine is the hardworking men and women in the Gulf states who have been put out of work because of this absolutely preposterous corporate decision-making that decided not to pay $500,000 for a piece of equipment and has now wreaked billions of dollars worth of damage on our shores. It's appalling.
Mark?
Yeah, Erica, the reality is, even if they took all this money, what would the federal government do with the stimulus money? They're the ones that are stopping a lot of the cleanup. They're prohibiting people from getting in there and doing the job with the Jones Act.
Wait a minute, don't interrupt me.
Erica, don't interrupt.
One at a time.
Erica,
One at a time.
hello, Erica. Bobby Jindal has said many times that he would like to get things done. They're not letting him do it. They're stopping the oil rigs. This disaster happened when they were trying to shut that oil well down. And now they're going to try to shut 33 of them down. You know, it's all reactionary. To the extent that the government can help clean it up, clean it up. But I'm not sure that the extra money is going to actually do that.
Okay, so you don't think that, let me just get this straight. Mark doesn't believe that the federal government is right now trying to clean up the oil spill. Has he seen the National Guardsmen and women who are down there? Has he seen, you know, Thad Cochran? I mean, they're out there working and they're spending millions of dollars trying to clean this up. I mean, you're seriously kidding, aren't you?
I have a centrist proposal for the two of you. To the extent that this unspent stimulus money, if some of it is not going to be spent, couldn't we then take whatever is not going to be spent, or they're trying to figure out how to spend it, take half of it and put it to work in the Gulf so people there can get back to work faster, and take the other half and return it to the taxpayer through reduced deficits? What's wrong with that proposal?
Well, as I said before, this stimulus program was designed for the problem that we had before we had the Gulf problem. So that stimulus money was designed to solve that problem.
And it's not fixing it.
Okay, we're not about to go into a Great Depression, which is where we were about 18 months ago, Mark. So I think we've done fairly well to date. We now have another problem that unfortunately was caused by lax oversight and bought and paid for government politicians. And so now we have to deal with this problem. This is what we are left with.
I tell you what, guys, I mean, I think the folks along the Gulf Coast would say that they are in a depression right now and they need help straight away. Thanks to both of you for being on Sunday's Corner.
Thanks a lot.
This Monday. We'll see you both next week right here. Folks, when we come back, he has gone from being pay czar to payout czar. What's on the top of the agenda for Ken Feinberg in his new role? Our Peter Barnes will be putting him on the hot seat. A preview of that interview coming up next on Fox Business.